Hello and welcome to our HorseshowJudges.com judge interview series today featuring professional judge Clint Fullerton. My name is Dave Deniston and I'm the owner of HorseshowJudges.com and HorseshowJudgesUniversity.com. We're happy to have you joining us today to learn more about professional judge Clint Fullerton, who I will introduce to you in just a moment. First, I want to introduce two valued HorseshowJudges.com and HorseshowJudgesUniversity.com members, Josh Chosis and Shelly Blockberger. Thanks for joining us. Josh has been a certified horse show judge for over 20 years and got his start with the Minnesota 4-H Horse Show Association. He earned other credentials with the Western Saddle Club Association of Minnesota and Wisconsin, along with the Pony of America, Pinto Horse Association of America, and National Snaffle Bit Association. His judging highlights are judging the South Dakota, North Dakota, and Minnesota state shows, all in 2017, and judging the 2019 Color Breed Congress show. He has also judged the WSCA Championship show, which happens to be the largest open horse show in the United States, 9 times, along with the Minnesota State 4-H show 8 times. Now Josh, along with his wife, Alyssa, show horses in pleasure, horsemanship, halter trail, western riding, and showmanship classes, and also have 2 miniature horses that they show at Pinto Horse Association shows in halter, jumping, hunter, driving, showmanship, discipline, rail driving, reinsmanship, obstacle driving, and in-hand trail. Those are some busy miniature horses. Outside of horse shows, Josh works as a farm business management instructor for Northland Community and Technical College out of his office in Moorhead, Minnesota. He also enjoys coaching youth 4-H and FFA horse judging teams in all of his spare time. Josh is working his way through the HorseshowJudgesUniversity.com comprehensive online judges seminar, which Clint Fullerton is an instructor, and we're proud to have him as a member of HorseshowJudges.com. Josh has 5 additional professional judges cards and is excited to visit with Clint today. Shelly Blockberger has been involved with horses since the age of 8. She has owned and operated her horseback riding, lesson, and boarding business, B&B Farm LLC, since 2000. She obtained her CHA, Certified Horsemanship Association, Rider Instructor Certification in 2006, and was named AQHA Professional Horseman in 2008, and APHA Professional Horseman in 2012. Congratulations on those. And often attends educational seminars and enjoys learning horsemanship skills from other professionals. Shelly has coached clients to a world championship and many high point and reserve high point awards at state and local shows, as well as attaining high point awards herself. She has been a volunteer for many local saddle clubs, a 4-H horsemanship leader, and has coached FFA horse judging teams, as well as earning 2 honorary FFA chapter degrees. That's a high honor as well. Shelly greatly enjoys scribing for APHA and other breed-approved shows and judging at local open horse shows. She obtained her level 3 judges card for the Open Horse Show Association in 2017. Shelly has recently been through HorseshowJudgesUniversity.com and holds the distinction of being the first member ever to successfully complete the entire online course. So congratulations on that. How did you do on Clint's part? Did you get all the halter classes right?
I think I did. Well, good. Maybe not exactly, but.
But you did okay there.
Did okay, yeah.
Okay. So welcome to both Josh and Shelly, who will be invited to ask Clint some questions as we go through the interview today. Now to introduce our featured judge, Clint Fullerton. If you've ever shown at a stock horse breed show in America, or around the world for that matter, in the past many years, you've probably shown to Clint, whether or not you know it. Clint is the definition of a professional judge. He literally judges more horse shows than anybody I know. Clint Fullerton of Kansas City, Missouri. He's a lifelong horseman, having grown up the son of a horse trainer. He holds judges cards with 10 different associations and has judged prestigious shows such as the All-American Quarter Horse Congress. And I'm going to try to get all of these right. He's judged world shows for many different associations. These are world shows, including AQHA, APHA, APHC, the Appaloosas, Pinto Horse Association, Palominos, Buckskin, both Buckskin associations, and the NSBA World Shows. And has judged those several times. Clint has also been an extremely successful exhibitor of several different breeds of horses in many different classes. He's also been a great friend of mine personally and of HorseshowJudgesUniversity.com as a clinician in the online program discussing both judging the halter and the Western horsemanship. So without further ado, I'm going to stop talking. Clint, We've been friends for a long time. We've judged together many times. You're always a judge that I respect your opinion. I look up to you. I enjoy our conversations. So I'm going to try to guide some of these questions. I'm going to start with a few background questions, and then we'll mix those with some questions from both Josh and Shelley, and we'll interject some sort of fun questions as well. You good with that?
Very good with it.
Okay. So first question, I've introduced you a little bit, given our folks a little bit of a background, but I guess I would start with, you've been in the horse industry for a long time, but how did you actually get started judging, and where did you find your interest in judging, and how did you get that all started and get to where you are today?
Well, I grew up in the horse business. My dad was a horse trainer. I was a horse trainer and showed. Always knew at some point I would want to judge, but I wanted to establish my horse show career first in showing, and I got a lot of experience in the arena, which I think helped my judging. And then kind of one day I just said, I'm ready for that next step, and went and tested for my card, judged a couple futurities first, judged a couple of open shows, kind of got my feet wet. It was just the next step in the career. It was just a logical step for me, and it's something I have a passion for.
Okay. What was the first card that you applied for?
Quarter horse.
Okay. And so you had judged some open shows before that, some county fairs, state shows.
Yeah, I judged a couple of open shows, and then I had people calling me to judge futurities, the 2s, the 3-year-old futurity, all the halter futurities at regular horse shows, those fall futurities. And they asked me if I would do that. And so I did a couple of those fall futurities, and then I felt very comfortable and really enjoyed it. So in 2007, I applied for my quarter horse card.
Okay, great. So Shelley, you had a couple questions for Clint. I'll let you kind of take over here.
Okay, starting out, I'd like to know, what is the funniest or craziest experience you've ever had judging a horse show, and how did you handle it?
You know, I haven't actually had anything super funny. The craziest stuff I've ever had to deal with is the travel. I was in Kansas City, there was 2 flights to Pennsylvania. I was judging in Center Hall, Pennsylvania, a 3-day horse show. The flight was at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. It was the last flight to there, and they canceled the flight and said I could fly tomorrow morning, which I was going to judge the next morning. And so I just jumped in my truck and drove 17 hours to make sure I got there. Then I've also judged a show in Spokane, Washington. They put me at a Motel 6 that the lock wouldn't work. There was bullet holes in the wall. There was cigarette burns in the comforter. There was blood spots on the carpet. It was crazy. And so I've been through everything in the travel end of it.
That's funny because there's one judge, I can't remember exactly who it is, but it's a female judge. And when she goes to judge a horse show, she refuses to stay at a hotel if the doors are to the outside. That's just a rule of thumb for her. She just doesn't feel safe. If the doors go to the outside, she stays someplace else. So that's funny.
Okay, and then a second question I have here is, what do you like most about being a horse show judge, and why?
I absolutely love the travel of it, seeing all the different horses all over the world, all over America, getting to see the different people, the judges I get to judge with, the interaction with the people, and how many different things I get to see and people I get to meet. I just think are the awesome part of this job.
Great.
So Clint, not to put you on the spot, because we've both judged at a lot of great places, judged a lot of good horse shows, but of the hundreds of horse shows that you've judged literally all over the world, what's one of your favorites or a few of your favorites that you just really enjoy judging and love to go back to?
I have several shows I love, but my favorite is the NSBA World Show. And the NSBA World Show is one of my favorites because you get to see the best of the best, like any world show. You get to see the great horses that you've known for years, but you get to see the new 2- and 3-year-olds show up, and that's their first time out. And the classes are super deep and they're great, and you get to see all the beginnings of the greatness as well as the great horses.
Perfect. So what advice do you have for somebody who is listening to this? They're aspiring to apply for their first judge's card or second judge's card or whatever it might be. What kind of general advice do you have for them? What should they be doing now, in your opinion? I should also mention Clint has served on judges committees for different associations, so he's well versed in how the application process works and how the interview process works and the whole application through the judges card systems. So
for me, I think it's invaluable to get arena time. Volunteer to scribe, volunteer to ring steward, just getting yourself in the arena and looking at things from a different angle. When you're scribing, you get to hear a judge call the scores, you get to see what's going on, you get yourself into the flow of it. I think score videos, as many videos as you can, go through all of the horse IQ, practice, and know the scoring system inside and out. And I don't think the scoring system has to become just like second nature to you. You can't walk into a class and say, that's when I'm going to try to apply it. It needs to be applied ahead of time, many, many, many times till you're comfortable with it. I don't think you can practice too much.
I'm glad to hear you say that. I think Josh and Shelley would both agree with you and with me as far as the value of being a ring steward and a scribe. And I've said publicly over and over that I ring stewarded and scribed the Paint World Show for years before I ever considered applying for a judge's card. And I can't imagine having applied for a card without that experience. It was just that invaluable. And just like you said, giving you the time in the pen, working with judges and figuring out a system in how to handle the paperwork and how to handle marking cards and everything else was really critical. So I'm glad to hear you say that. Shelley and Josh, do you have anything to add to that? As I know you've both been ring steward and scribing, and you find that valuable.
I would totally agree. Yeah.
I would as well. I think it's a great experience. Even as a judge myself, even now when I ring steward, you still pick up something from everybody that you work with.
Yeah, I think that's a good point too. Even as a judge, I always say I learn something new at every horse show I judge. Whether it be I'm looking at a class and I place it differently than Clint, and we go back to the judges' room and we can have a conversation about it. And we could agree, not agree, but I'll still learn something just from that conversation. And I think that's just an invaluable experience.
I think so too. And you always pick up, a judge will say something. You could have judged for 5-6 years and judged 30 shows a year, and somebody will say, well, this is how I do that. And you're like, wow, that's very beneficial. And you kind of can change your system. Your system should always be evolving.
Yeah, I still have a lot of cases where I'll go and judge a horse show and I'll be judging a class and something will happen that I have never seen before.
Happens all the time.
And I'll think to myself, what do you do with that? And
there's no rule for it.
In the situation, you do the best that you can as a judge, right? You have to make a decision. So you do the best that you can. But then a lot of times I'm going to walk out of that class, I'm going to talk to somebody else, or I'll go home and I'll call somebody and say, this happened. What would you do? I mean, that's happened several times to where it's just something crazy could happen that you've just never seen before, no matter how many horse shows you judge. So one of the big questions we get a lot, Clint, at judges seminars and from people aspiring to be a judge is, and I've had this question a lot, I'm sure that you have as well. If it's a person who's judged open and 4-H shows, like you and I both started, and Josh and Shelley did as well, and they're thinking about applying for a association card, which card should they apply for first? Should it be one of the smaller color breed cards, or should they just jump in like you did and apply for an AQHA card? What are your thoughts on that, and how do you advise people that ask you that question?
That's such a personal decision. For me, I jumped right in, but my confidence level was there. I think it's such a personal decision. You have to truly know where you're at. And it doesn't matter if you're applying for a quarter horse card and judging quarter horse shows, or applying for a POA card and judging POA shows. you should be holding yourself to the very same standard. You know, if I judge a POA show, I don't judge it any differently than I do a quarter horse show or the Quarter Horse Congress for that matter. Every time I'm holding myself to a standard. So I think whatever card you're applying for, you can use that experience to keep evolving and apply for other cards if you would like, or just do a good job on that breed or division of what you're applying for.
Josh, I'll ask your opinion on that. You have your Pinto card, correct?
Pinto and NSBA and POA. And I guess I agree with Clint. I think it kind of depends on your comfort level and maybe your involvement with those associations. You know, I think it helps to have some experience, whether it's an exhibitor or a ring steward or being involved with that. I chose Pinto as my POA was my first one, but Pinto was really the first one where I went and actually did the full interview process. And part of that is I had already ring stewarded. We showed Pinto shows in Minnesota and North Dakota. So we're very comfortable with the people there. And we understood a lot of the classes. And I felt as an open show judge, I felt a lot of those classes did correlate and crossed over more. And we're very unique in the fact that an open show you're judging, you could see all kinds of different breeds at that show. And I think that more correlated with the Pinto. And knowing that I had Pinto shows in our area that would be willing to hire me was something I looked for as well.
Your comments are exactly in line with Andrea, actually, that we just interviewed recently, and she said basically the same thing. Go with what you're comfortable with. So like you were comfortable with the Pintos and miniature horses and those kind of classes, and kind of stayed in your lane, went that direction before you gonna jump out of that lane. So similar comments for sure.
And I on the judges cards and what cards people have, I don't think it's to have 10 cards or 2 cards or 1 card. I don't think one matters more than the others. I think as a judge, POA, Pinto, Buckskin, Palomino, Quarter Paint, they're hiring you to do a job, and you have to be good at what you do, and you have to try very hard and be very passionate. So I think whatever card you have, as long as you're the best judge you can possibly be for that association, you have succeeded.
I think that's a good comment. So Clint, you're obviously an accomplished halter exhibitor, trainer, well-respected judge for the halter. I'm going to ask you a procedural kind of specific judging question now. So if you're judging a halter class at whatever show, the Congress, the World Show that has 20, 25, 30 horses in it, curious about just what your procedure is, admitting that everybody has a different kind of way that they do things, but it's always interesting to me to hear what everybody's different procedure is. In other words, how are you, we're tracking the horses first? Are you placing them at that point? What's your mindset? How do you walk around the horses? Just general procedure. How do you take notes? That kind of thing. Could you talk about that for a minute?
Absolutely. And I have a procedure like everybody does, but my procedure is kind of lack of procedure. When a horse tracks to me and trots by and turns left at the cone, I have formed a mental evaluation. That's a horse I'm going to want to look at. That's a horse I like. That's a horse I notice the faults or whatever. And it's whether the class size is 2 or 25. I make mental notes, but I don't write down numbers. A lot of my judge friends write down every number as they come in, just to kind of have a mental process. And numbers, if they're kind of getting lost on a number, or they know that horse was 4th in, they can look over there and they know what number that is. I don't do that. I kind of have a mental note, then I start walking my horses, and I go right to them and start walking, and I have a very good memory. And so I remember what I see. I walk back out to the end, profile all of them, and then place the class.
Okay.
Profile them as a group, walk through all of them. I look at every side, front, back. I'm not one of these judges that I judge on the positives. I don't judge on the negatives. So if the horse has a fault, I'll mentally make a note of it, but that doesn't necessarily eliminate that horse from being my winner or up in my top. It's just one part of the whole picture. So the horse with the most positives and the most balance is going to be my winner.
Okay. So Josh had a few follow-up questions regarding your procedure for judging the halter. So I'll turn it over to Josh for a minute.
And Clint did answer some of that because he talked about how his process that and so I'm just going to clarify is that you actually walk around each horse individually first, and then you do the up and down the profile line at the end. Is that correct, Clint?
That's correct. I judge every horse as an individual, then walk back and look at the whole class profile together.
So Clint, if you were to give advice for a newer or inexperienced judge that doesn't have as good of a memory, and I know that you have a great memory, of what would be your advice on either taking notes, or what are you looking for? What are your eyes drawn for when you look at the profile, when you're looking at the front view, the rear view?
The profile is the main thing. That's the first and the most important thing. The profile, the balance is going to be your most important issue. My eye, when I look at the profile, my eye goes to the shoulder first and then the overall from the shoulder. I would tell judges to look and to trust their eye. Most of the time, the balanced horse is the pleasant looking horse. That pleasantness is, your eye's going to be drawn to it. And so trust your eye. If you're drawn to a horse, know you're drawn to that horse for a reason. And so trust yourself and go on with it. I don't do a lot of note taking. I think, and not that it's not good for some individuals, but we're there to judge the horse show. We're not there to write a book. And I think a lot of people start taking notes and then they get totally sidetracked. And they lose focus of what they're really supposed to do. When you're writing notes, I've never seen people write a book of positive things. I see them writing a book of negative things. So I don't like the note taking, and I would advise against it.
So when you talk about, doing your actual placings, I know one of the things that they teach us in the education is finding your groups and then trying to keep your horses within your groups and not moving. So are you mentally doing that? Or, when you get down to that comparison, you're trying to decide between a couple horses, or should I move it down in a group because it's got a major fault? What's your procedure for that?
Yeah, I mentally put them in groups. You're going to have your top group, your middle group, or your lower group. But don't forget, your top group might be a group of one. Your bottom group might be a group of one. So your groupings, I mentally put my groupings together. But remember, a lot of people will say, well, this horse doesn't fit in a group. I have a top group, but that horse, the extreme horse or the extreme horse, they don't know what to do with that horse. Well, I found a lot of times that extreme horse is the winner. It's in a group by itself. So you can group one horse by itself and still be a group, but mentally put them in the groups. But then don't get lost in that process. Know what first is, know what second is, know what third is. Make a decision. That's what you're paid to do. You're paid to make a decision.
Good, thank you.
So while we're talking about groupings, Clint, I'll ask you just as a follow-up, because we talk about this a lot in judges' seminars, and since Josh is talking about groupings, let's suppose, theoretical question, that you've got a horse that's a great one, really balanced, really pretty, maybe it's a yearling filly, great neck, great head, great back, great shoulder, great hip, maybe a bad leg, has a major fault kind of in structural correctness. So a horse that would be in your mind, you're walking around it thinking, this could even be my winner. As far as grouping, maybe as in that upper group, but then you identify something that maybe you're not crazy about that would be considered by the rule book a major fault. How do you handle that?
If it's she would go to the bottom of her group. So if there were 3 horses in my top group and she had a major fault, she would be third. If she's a group of 1, so she's the best horse in the class and she's all by herself, then I would evaluate, does she move down into the next group down? And chances are she would not. She would stay at the bottom of her group, and if she was the group of 1, she would stay at the top of the class.
And that's really what I was getting at and hoping you were going to say, because I think that's where some judges struggle, is they see something like that and they may consider even eliminating her because of something that they see that they don't like, that they consider a major fault, but it's not an elimination kind of situation. It's move to the bottom of the group and find a logical place for her, because what you have to do is give her credit for what she is. If she's really pretty, really balanced, great shoulder, you have to give her credit for that. Sure, take away for the fault, but find a logical place for her, I think.
And I view the halter like I view any other class. So if I'm judging the showmanship and we have a +3 trot, we have a +3 turn, we have a +3 back, we have a +3 setup, but then we have a -1, 180. Something happened in a penalty. So a penalty happened, something happened in that run. It doesn't make it not the winning run. So I have my halter horses, I feel the very same way. You know, I'm looking at all these positive traits, and then we have a major minus, but that doesn't mean that's an elimination. It just means it goes to the bottom of its group or it stays up in the front.
I think that's a great way to look at it. Shelley, do you have any follow-up before we move away from specifically the halter for Clint? Do you have anything burning that you'd like to ask?
One thing that kind of pops into my mind, since I do getting to do quite a few open shows, is when you have a large class and you've got different breeds. Somebody even throws a mule in there, and you know, that kind of thing. It can get kind of hard. You know, what would be your advice on judging that
Or
halter class?
Josh comes in with a miniature horse, and you've got
Exactly.
It's
And I know each breed has its specification, you know, for what they're looking at, but
that's what you judge on. You're judging to the breed standard, just like at the dog shows. You know, when you come in for the best of show, there's all these different breeds, and the judge doesn't comparatively judge, he judges to the breed standard. The very first horse show I ever judged, I think it was in 1995 in Paris, Missouri, and it was an all-breed show. It was an open show, and I can still remember the grand champion mare was an Arabian mare and beat all the quarter horses. And they were just so shocked, but she was a better Arabian mare than the quarter horses were to their standard. So I think you have to say, what is that standard, and judge towards that standard.
right.
Clint, what do you think is the biggest challenge about being a horse show judge and judging horse shows?
Training yourself to stay focused every single minute. Never lose your focus. From 7 in the morning till 3 o'clock the next morning, you have to stay focused, give every run your utmost attention, and know your job and do it every second.
Great. Shelley, you had a couple other questions for Clint. I'll turn it over to you for a second.
Okay. I would think all judges have their favorite classes to judge and their least favorite classes to judge. How do you handle judging those least favorite classes?
By not allowing myself to have a favorite or a least favorite. I believe in our business, somebody has a passion about halter, and they deserve somebody who loves halter. Somebody is passionate about Western riding or trail. And if you do not want to judge every class from the start of the show to the end of the show, pick a different career. I don't like to hear I have a favorite or I have a least favorite. A favorite I can kind of go with. A least favorite I think is totally out of line, and I think that's the time to start reevaluating your career or your attitude.
Great.
So having said that, what are some of your favorite classes to judge? What do you get really excited to judge?
I honestly can tell you I get pumped to judge any event with great horses. I don't care what it is. Halter, trail. I literally love the entire horse show.
It shows. That's awesome. You're very passionate. So again, not to put you on the spot, but you've judged all over the world. Where are some of your favorite places to judge?
Obviously, I have judged all over, and I enjoy everything. I enjoy Australia a lot because when I have learned to slow down a little bit after I judge a horse show, I spend another week and tour the country and go do some other things. And so I've started doing that stuff. And so Australia is one of my most favorite places.
Fair enough. Good. Okay. So I've been asking a lot of questions. At this point, we're going to end by asking Clint some sort of fun questions. But before we do that, I'll ask Josh and Shelly if you have any follow-up that you want to ask, any other burning questions. Clint's the guy to ask, and now's the time.
I guess I had a question for Clinton. In all the shows that he's judging in a year, how does he keep himself organized, and how does he keep track of everything as he's going from show to show and changing contracts and flights? And does he have a certain way that he gets himself organized?
That's a very good question.
I've learned how to be that way by doing it all wrong. So I can still remember the very first show I was ever paid to judge was in January of 2008 in Cedar Rapids, Iowa, the Winter Wonderland circuit. And I went and judged the show, and they said, "What do we owe you?" And I said, "Just pay me what you think's fair." You know, it literally, I didn't have an invoice. I had nothing. I was just kind of like, "Hey, I'm here to judge the show. I'm having a good time. I'm enjoying this." So I've actually learned over the years to add procedures in, how to stay organized. I've learned off other judges. I can still remember being in Waco, Texas, and doing a trail class of 70, and I'm trying to figure out my first and second. Somebody says, "Where's your ladder sheet?" And I'm like, "What's a ladder sheet?" You know, I didn't know what a ladder sheet was. And they're like, "Well, a ladder sheet." So they taught me how to use the ladder sheet. And then Gigi Bailey taught me how to break my ties on the ladder sheet by putting my penalties there with it. And so I just, my judging with other judges and learning and watching, I've always said the smartest people know how to copy very well. And so copy the people you respect and you watch, and just take the best out of everybody and just keep adding it to the repertoire.
And steal good ideas.
Steal them.
Steal.
Absolutely steal them and keep them. So, and to your point, Josh, on keeping everything organized, I judge anywhere from 35 to 40 horse shows a year. And so when somebody calls me for a horse show, I go right into my phone, put it on my calendar, and I put what breed it is. So it's AQHA or it's APHA or it's Pinto or Appaloosa. I'll put AQHA, and then I'll put AQHA judging, and the judging is in small letters. And then I'll put / whatever town it's in the state, and then I'll put my contact person. And as soon as I get a contract on it, emailed to me, and get it signed, get it filled out and sent back, I change the judging to all capitals. So when I look on my calendar, I don't have a contract on the little judging. I have contracts in place on the big judging. And so if somebody calls and says, "Hey, I want you to judge a show," I have a conflict, but I don't have a contract on it. I can say, "Let me call them real quick." But that, whenever I get a contract, I capitalize it.
That's a great idea. I think I'm going to steal that.
That is a great idea.
So just to clarify, that's 35 to 40 horse show. Roughly how many horse show days is that? Do you know?
That's a lot of days. I don't do any one-day horse shows. Right. So at least it's 2, but there's a lot of them that are 3 to 5. And then last year, I judged the Color Breed Congress was 9 days. The Appaloosa Nationals was 10 days. The Paint World was 10 days. The Quarter Horse Congress was 14 days. The Select World was 5 days. So
it's a lot.
Yeah, and 5 days at the Paint Congress. So it's a lot of days, but I love every one of them.
That's awesome. Shelly, any other questions for Clint before we?
No further questions. This has been great insight.
Thank you.
Josh, anything else before we ask some kind of fun questions?
That's all I had. I appreciate it.
Okay. So Clint, one of my favorite shows used to be a show called Inside the Actors Studio. I don't know if you've seen it. It was on the air for like 20 years. It was hosted by James Lipton, and it was a really cool format where he would interview a really professional, well-respected, successful actor in front of an acting studio, acting class, people that were aspiring to be a professional actor. And he would always do kind of an interview like we've done up to that point, but he would always end by asking some sort of fun questions to get to know them personally just a little bit more. So I know a lot of people show to you, but they've never maybe talked to you or gotten to know you as a person. And sometimes a lot of people don't think judges are human and have other interests and other kind of things because they don't get to talk to you. So just a few fun questions that I wanted to ask. So if you weren't in the horse industry, if you didn't have a career in the horse industry, what else do you think you'd be doing?
I'd either be a psychologist or an attorney.
And why is that?
I love psychology. I love how thinking, thinking things out, or how people think, or that kind of stuff. And on the attorney side, I love defending people, fair, making things fair, making things right, defending people. And I can be totally, it's not personal. I'm one of those people that you see the two attorneys fighting with each other, calling each other names. Then when it's done saying, hey, let's go have dinner, I'm one of those guys. I can say, it's not personal, let's go have dinner.
Well, that's part of the reason why you make a great horse show judge, right?
Right. It's
You have to
just
do
not
the same
personal.
thing. Yeah, you have to do the same thing. You're judging your friends, your colleagues all the time. You can't take that
Absolutely.
personally and have to make the right decision. So I
But
think
as an attorney, you can fight for things that you believe in.
that's a good parallel. What did you want to be when you were growing up?
Horse trainer.
Yeah.
That's it. I never wanted to be anything but a horse trainer, a horseman. I'm one of those, the minute I was born, I loved horses, and I've never wanted to do anything but horses.
That's awesome. So again, not to put you on the spot, but who are some of your favorite people to judge with? Who are some people that you really respect, that you get excited to go and judge with, that you have a good time?
I actually can honestly say I love judging with everybody I've judged with. I really, truly do. I learn so much from everybody. And in that judge's room, I'm always looking forward to hearing somebody's opinion, because I'm learning every day on it. I would say there's not one judge I respect the most. Two of the judges that I feel are somebody I just love to emulate is Sandy Jerkowski and Andrea Simons. And they just amaze me, because they can judge the horse show. No matter if you have cattle classes, halter, whatever, they can judge the entire horse show at a world level, all the way through. They are so talented from start to finish. And I think I just admire them so much for that ability.
I know your dad was really influential in your career and how you grew up. Are there other people that are your mentors in the horse industry?
He's it. My dad. My
Yeah.
dad is everything. He taught me. I thrived on learning, and he was one of those that taught every moment, and I thrived on it. And I'm where I am today because of him.
I know how important he is to you. So that's awesome. What kind of other skills, talents do you have outside of the horse industry? Are you an artist, a musician? What kind of other things do you get passionate about?
I have zero skills outside the horse industry. I have to be good at this.
There's no plan.
I have zero skills and don't want any other skills. This is it. So people ask me, outside the horse industry, what do you do? Well, I'll tell you what I do. I've been to Kentucky Derby twice. I've been to the Queen's Derby in Ascot, England. I've been to the Arabian Nationals. I've been to the Saddlebred National Show. I've been to the NCHA Futurity. I go do other horse stuff. I've been to the Wellington, Florida Jumper Series over the winter. So I like to go see other breeds and see what they do and look for ideas. But zero outside the horse business. And other people have a life outside of it. I've never grasped that concept.
Shelley, you had kind of a related question. I think he somewhat answered it, but go ahead and ask your question.
Right. I was going to say, what do you do in your spare time? But you may not have any spare time. And when you do, you're at other horse shows. I don't know if you read a book or
a horse book. I'll read a business. I read business related books that I could apply to the horse business, accounting, that kind of stuff. I'm passionate about bookkeeping and accounting and all that kind of stuff to go with my horse business. But
okay.
like when I say I go to the Saddlebred World Championships, that show's 7 days long. Like I rent a golf cart. I'm there at 6 a.m. I'm at the warm-up pen. Then I go watch all the classes. And the Arabian Nationals is the same way. I mean, I go get a golf cart and I watch everything. I go by the barns, I hang out and go to their exhibitors parties. I do everything. I kind of soak up everything.
Okay.
Now, I do know for a fact you and Chris did take a vacation recently, and you came to Colorado,
Yes.
and you did do some things in your spare time. So talk about that for a second, because that was a great trip for you.
That was a great trip. We actually mountain biked down Pikes Peak, 20 miles. Then we zip lined across the Royal Gorge. So we did a lot of hiking. Then we went to a couple of the parks and did some touring. And then we took off and went to judge the Paint Horse Congress from there. So
He does do a little bit outside of the horse show.
Chris kind of makes me.
So if you and Chris, if you could go on vacation anywhere in the world, where would it be?
Australia.
You love Australia.
We love Australia. We've been there twice and spent some vacation time after the horse shows, and we just absolutely love it.
If you could have dinner with any two people, live or dead, who would you have dinner with?
My mom and dad.
Wow, good answer. That built a lot of points right there. That was a lot
It's
of.
true.
Well, Clint, I think I'll ask Josh or Shelly if you have any last questions.
I do not.
No.
Clint,
Okay.
I appreciate your support of Horse Show Judges University.com, horseshowjudges.com as well. It's a comprehensive educational online judges seminar. Or if you have any last advice for anybody that's aspiring to be a judge, something that we haven't talked about that you'd like to add at this point?
I think we're good. Just be good at your craft. Practice it. You can't practice enough. Go to horse shows, sit in the stands, and if you're sitting in the stands, be scoring it. Always score the classes. Always want to get better. And never think that you can't get better. Every show I judge, if I'm judging the Quarter Horse Congress or if I'm judging an open show, I believe that's somebody's world show. Somebody graduated from the Friday night fun show, and now this is their next level. So I always take it so seriously, knowing that's somebody's world show, and I'm happy to be there.
And always be learning.
Always be learning. That's the fun of all of it. Getting better is the fun.
Well, Clint, thank you for being our special guest in this horseshowjudges.com interview. I both appreciate your support and friendship. I look forward to judging with you again down the road soon. This concludes our horseshowjudges.com interview. If you aren't already a member of horseshowjudges.com, please check us out. Also check out the comprehensive online Horse Show Judges seminar on the internet at horseshowjudgesuniversity.com, the seminar that both Shelly and Josh are going through. If you're a member of horseshowjudges.com, please message us on Facebook. Let us know what other judges besides Clint Fullerton you'd like us to interview, and we'll try to get that arranged for you. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you for our next interview. Clint, Shelly, Josh, thank you all very much. I appreciate you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Thanks.